the perfect retro modern controller. I'm Rio Gion and welcome to the channel. So for those that love the SNES controller, this is the one for you. But honestly, I think you already have this controller. This controller pretty much have everything that you would want in a controller. 2 analog sticks that click, 4 face buttons, D-pad, L, R, 1 and 2. So the thing will pretty much covers most games and most emulators, unless you're playing something really special. There's also a button with a star and another button with a heart on it. So the star button is for turbo. This means if you're playing those shoot 'em up games where it requires you to constantly tap a button, then the turbo function can make it so that you just hold the button instead of constantly tapping it, which is nice. For the heart button, it's the home LED. So I looked all over the manual and did not really find a function. So I'm guessing this is for the Nintendo Switch to go home page. I don't have a Switch to try out, but I think that's the case. Comment down below if you do. A thing to note is that this controller is small, so with larger hands it can be an issue, but it's not really that bad for me, so it might not be that bad for you. On the bright side, this is pocketable, so imagine a scenario where you have a folding phone with a kickstand. You place it on the table, you unfold everything out, looks like a mini TV, play retro arcade games with this controller. I think that would be freaking awesome, but to each their own. As for the looks, I loved the SNES controller back in the day, so this is great. Just to have a SNES looking controller to play retro games or modern games. The controller feels freaking great, like in the best way that I can possibly describe it. The face buttons are tactile and clicky. They're not loose or cheap, which is really good. The D-pad also feels really good. The directions are solid. Like if you press up, you can feel that you press up instead of like getting mixed directions on top of it. It also feels really good to do a Hadouken with the D-pad for those of you that likes to play Street Fighter. The analog sticks are solid. They retract at close distances and you feel like you're in control of the movement instead of just kind of suggesting where to move and have the controller decide for you. Also, they click just in case if you were wondering. The L1 and R1 buttons are tactile and clicky, which is good. The L2 and R2 buttons are the same, but they're not linear, which might suck for those of you that play racing games. The select and start buttons are those TV remote rubbers, so they might peel off over time, or a baby can peel them off if you have one of those at home. Anyways, here's what the controller sounds like. Honestly, I cannot feel the lag when using the controller, but I'm not super hardcore when it comes to games, so if you are, get the USB-C to the USB-C cable, attach it so you can avoid the lag if you can feel that lag. I think this is fine for wireless controllers at this price point. I guess you can say it's expected to be good because the controller is not exactly cheap, but if you compare them to like console controller, this is probably pretty cheap. So you have that going for you, which is nice. One thing that is awesome about this controller is the amount of compatibility. I mean, this works with Switch, Mac, Windows, Steam, Android, Raspberry Pi. Like, this controller works for everything, and at a price point of around 40 to 50 bucks depending on the time and model that you will get. I'll provide you with more details in the links down below. If you're planning on using this for your Android phone, then you might need to get a clip for that controller. If you have bigger hands, there's a bigger version of the controller which a link down below as well. Personally, I think this is worth it because you pretty much have a universal controller that actually works well. I remember back in the day with the universal TV remotes, those never work well, so I was pretty skeptical when going into the controller. Now to be honest, I only test on my PC and Android phone, so your mileage may vary just because I don't have a Switch, Mac device, or Raspberry Pi to test. If you're new, click subscribe, thumbs up, like the bell, comment for more content. If you want to support me directly, I have links for Patreon and locals down below. You guys stay awesome.